Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is the 23rd of July, 2018, the 11th of Av, 5778, Monday morning. I am recording here at about 10:43 in the morning, and this just several minutes ago here, the red alert sirens blaring in northern Israel, and a lot of speculation as to what was going on. And just this second, as I started recording here, the Homefront Command, Israel's Homefront Command, released a statement as to what happened in northern Israel just a few minutes ago here. It says, update, the alarms that were heard in northern Israel are the result of Syria's internal fighting. Apparently, there were several rockets launched, according to this report by the Homefront Command. They were not aimed at Israel, but it has to do with the internal Syrian civil war. That's what they believe at this point. And as a result, Israel, fearing that these rockets were in fact aimed at northern Israel, launched several of our David Sling anti-missile missiles, which is essentially our medium-range protector missiles. You have the Iron Dome, of course, and then you have the Arrow system to intercept ballistic missiles. So this is the medium-range missiles called David Sling. They were launched at the rockets. No harm, no casualties, and thank God everything's okay. But definitely a scare as we start the week here in Israel. And I say starting the week, usually Israel starts the week on Sunday, but yesterday, of course, was Tisha B'Av. It was actually pushed off from Saturday, the fast, but yesterday was a fast here in Israel where thousands gathered in Jerusalem to pray at the Western Wall, to go up to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and we'll get to all that here on the show. But I just wanted to start off with that update because it happened just right now as I started recording my program. This is Israel Uncensored. My name is Josh Hasten. Thanks for joining us here on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Get in touch with me during the week. Josh at thelandofisrael.com is my email. On Twitter, it's at Josh Hasten, and on Facebook, it's Joshua Hasten. Because there is so much going on in the news here in Israel, we're not going to be interviewing or speaking to anybody today. I'm just going to give a summary of everything making the headlines here, in addition to that alert that we just had several moments ago up in northern Israel. We'll start on a very sad and tragic note. Hundreds attended the funeral of Staff Sergeant Aviv Levi, IDF soldier, who was killed on the Gaza border by a Hamas sniper on Friday. Family, friends, and fellow IDF soldiers, reported by Ynet, pay their final respects to the 20-year-old Givati soldier killed on Friday by a sniper. Reports indicate that the weapon that he used was actually an Iranian-manufactured weapon, an Iranian gun. This was the first IDF casualty along the southern Gaza border since the war in 2014. And just a horrible, horrible day yesterday, the funeral on Tisha B'Av, when so many calamities happened to the Jewish people. You can add this one to the list. The death of a 20-year-old IDF soldier defending the nation, falling in battle, defending our borders. So extremely sad down there in the Gaza region. But of course, we're supposed to be at ceasefire with Hamas down in Gaza, but hardly a ceasefire. As everyone says, we cease, they fire. But what I call a ceasefire, this ceasefire, fake news, because as the Jerusalem Post reports, the IDF carried out an airstrike at a terror cell that launched incendiary balloons from the northern Gaza Strip on Sunday evening. So much for a ceasefire, when they're still launching the terror balloons and the kites and starting fires in in and around the Gaza border region. According to Channel 10, Palestinian media reported that 6 people were injured in the IDF airstrike as a result of, in response to these terror balloons coming into Israel. And of course, this Jerusalem Post report mentions that on Friday, both Israel and Gaza representatives confirmed a ceasefire following dozens of airstrikes that day in response to the death of Israeli Staff Sergeant Aviv Levy at the hands of a Gazan sniper. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman stated during his visit to the south on Sunday that if the ceasefire remains intact, which I don't understand because it never started, because Hamas doesn't have the word ceasefire in its lexicon, that the imports to the Gaza Strip would return to normal. In other words, if there's 2 days of quiet, we haven't even had one day, but maybe they count yesterday as day one on Sunday because there were only a few fires started. I think 8 terror fires started here in Israel. Things would return to normal. So the question is that it? Are we once again going to leave Hamas intact, even though our soldier was killed, even though the balloons are still coming, even though reports also last night indicated that there were other incidents along the border, possible shooting attacks and whatnot? We need a comprehensive policy in Gaza. And I'm not talking about negotiating with Hamas or giving in to Hamas or any of that. I'm talking about freeing Gaza from Hamas once and for all. We've already been in Gaza at least 3 times over the past decade, all as a result, by the way, of the ill-conceived 2005 expulsion of all Jewish life from Gaza. Let's remember how all of this started and why this is happening and why there are terror balloons and why there are terror tunnels and why rocket fire increased by 500% once Israel left that area. A huge error in judgment. I wish more people would admit at this juncture what a grave mistake that was, pulling all Jewish life out of Gaza. We're seeing the results of that each and every day now here throughout the country, unfortunately. I mean, it's completely sad. You know, I spent my Tisha B'Av yesterday, the fast day, watching different movies and whatnot that were appropriate for the sadness of the day. One of the movies I saw had to do with the pullout from Gush Katif, also very sad. And then I saw my friend Laura Bialis, a movie director, and you should download her movie on iTunes. I completely endorse and support. What a wonderful, very sad and tragic, but a wonderful movie explaining the situation in southern Israel called Rock in the Red Zone, telling the story of young musicians in Sderot who living their lives under fire, coming up with some of the best music Israel's ever known. So download Rock in the Red Zone. But I watched it again yesterday, and the videos, most of the clips were shot in 2007, 2008, 2009, but it hasn't changed. That movie could have been filmed yesterday. It could have been filmed this week and this month and this year. This, in fact, the movie was filmed 10 years ago, but what has really changed? Different waves of rocket attacks, Israel having to go back into Gaza over and over again. Nothing has really changed, unfortunately, in 10 years, all resulting from the pullout, the eviction of all Jews from Gaza, the subsequent Hamas takeover, and it's truly, truly tragic. But go check out Rock in the Red Zone. You can download it on iTunes. The Israeli Foreign Ministry chastised CNN over the weekend because of its fake news reporting on the situation, getting the story mixed up backwards, of course, accusing Israel of initiating the situation or the escalation down there, and then claiming that Hamas basically responded. There was a brief by CNN International on Saturday presenting the events of the day before, Friday, in reverse order, making no mention that the Israeli airstrikes had been in direct response to Hamas's attack, blaming Israel essentially for the escalation, turning it around, turning it upside down as they do from time to time, Israeli Foreign Minister spokesman Emmanuel Nachshon responding on Twitter to CNN, accusing the media outlet of manipulation, saying the following: "No CNN, quote, no CNN, you got it wrong, and not for the first time. An Israeli soldier was killed by Hamas and IDF retaliated, protecting its country and citizens against murderous terrorists. By misrepresenting the facts you manipulate against Israel, stop your manipulation." That's the Foreign Ministry responding to a CNN report indicating that because of Israeli airstrikes, Hamas turned around and responded. Of course, that is not the order. And that's not how this whole situation started. I'm talking about the current situation. First, people accuse Israel of maintaining a blockade of Gaza. And as a result, they're mixing it up. As a result, the rockets were launched. No, it was the opposite. The rockets started, and Israel was forced to take action against Hamas in Gaza as a result of the rockets, and not vice versa. So get your story straight. Get the facts straight, CNN and everyone else who uses every opportunity to misrepresent the reality of everything going on here in Israel. Talking about Tisha B'Av yesterday, the commemoration of the destruction of both temples in Jerusalem and many more calamities throughout Jewish history. Over 1,000, according to this report by Israel National News, 1,008 Jews arrived Sunday morning to the Temple Mount and went up to Judaism's holiest site on the day marking the destruction of the temples. Many more visitors to the Western Wall. Mostly without incident. Several people arrested for bowing. Of course, Jews are not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount, rather. So some did, in fact, try to express their prayers to God on Judaism's holiest site. Yet, technically, it's actually allowed, but the police are allowed to overrule that law and are allowed to stop Jewish prayer, and they do so each and every time. Unfortunately, even though we talk about freedom of religion and whatnot, the Arabs can play soccer up there on the Temple Mount, desecrate the site, and do whatever they want up there, basically. One thing they can't do, by the way, is wave a so-called Palestinian flag. An Arab boy was actually taken into custody for doing that, but normally, each and every day, it's usually a soccer field up there on what they call their third holiest site. But if it's so holy, why do kids run around and desecrate the site? Why is there so much garbage up there? Trash, piles and piles of trash up there. But this is a positive sign that so many Jews are continuing to go up to the Temple Mount. I've been up there several times. There's some people who go up weekly and express their Jewish right to ascend to the Temple Mount. And yesterday, of course, with extreme significance on Tisha B'Av. You are listening to Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. We're going to take a break for station identification. My name is Josh Hasten. Get in touch with me during the week, Josh at thelandofisrael.com, on Facebook, Joshua Hasten, on Twitter at Josh Hasten. Big shout out to Binyamin Bresky, engineer extraordinaire. Without him, we just don't have any sound. Can't make this happen. So thanks, Ben. Take a short break. Come right back with much more news. And we are back. Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. It is Monday, the 23rd of July, 2018, the 11th of Av, 5778. Thanks so much for joining us. And just to update what we started the show with, now, according to Times of Israel, the David Sling anti-missile system used for the first time in what they are saying was a false alarm on the Golan. False alarm meaning there were things flying in the air from Syria, but they did not cross over into Israel. Alarms throughout northern Israel, throughout the Golan. But apparently at this juncture, it does look like this was an internal Syrian conflict, which set off the alarms, rockets and whatnot, projectiles flying through Syria, all the fighting going on there, and it was nothing directed purposefully at this point. It does not look like it was directed purposefully at Israel. So just to update you on that. At the same time, Reuters reports that Israel struck military posts in the Hama province of Syria yesterday on Sunday. Syrian state television says that the Israeli airstrike hit a military post in Syria's Hama province. Intelligence sources say a major military research center for chemical arms production could have been the target. This happened yesterday on the Tisha B'Av fast, reported again by Reuters. Now, people often take Israel to task over every move that it makes, and we'll talk about the Jewish nation-state bill which passed this week. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But what many often fail to do is to praise Israel when Israel does amazing things, like save the lives of 800 Syrians just over the weekend. Unbelievable story out of the Jerusalem Post reporting that Israel transferred 800 members of the White Helmets, which is the volunteer organization working in rebel-held areas of Syria, providing medical support during the conflict. It got to a point where they were fearing for their lives as the Syrian Assad regime forces were closing in on their positions there. What did Israel do? Despite Syria being an enemy country, Israel evacuated 800 of the White Helmets in a humanitarian operation over the weekend, bringing them to Jordan, transferring them by bus from Syria via Israel to Jordan, and essentially saving their lives. Prime Minister of Israel was quoted yesterday as saying, "In the last few days, U.S. President Donald Trump, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau, and several others asked for our help, Israel's help, in assisting hundreds of Syrian White Helmets. These are people that saved lives and were found in life-threatening danger. I therefore permitted their transfer through Israel to additional countries as an important humanitarian step. Apparently they're going through Jordan and they're going to be sent to countries in the West. In parallel," said the Prime Minister, "we are not stopping to act in Syria against attempts of military entrenchment of Iran there." So Israel's such a bad place, right? The BDS haters and the Israel haters out there accusing Israel of so many different things. Could probably do a whole show on all the different accusations against Israel coming out of the haters, out of the UN, and all the out of the EU and all the various bodies. Yet Israel, when is Israel going to get? Where is front page headlines? I'm looking for them. Maybe in your part of the world you saw this on the front page of your paper. So if you're listening to this podcast and you saw on the front page of your paper, Israel saves the lives of 800 Syrian White Helmets, please let me know. Send me an email, josh@thelandofisrael.com. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I haven't been looking hard enough. Show me where Israel gets the credit for saving the lives of 800 people in Syria. I'd like to see that. Yet again, a light unto the nations, certainly. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman saying he had the privilege to work with the Israeli government and his colleagues there in the U.S. State Department and National Security Council, coordinating this daring, what he called a daring rescue of White Helmets and their families from Syria. Getting back to the situation in Gaza, in today's Jerusalem Post, Prime Minister Netanyahu's handling of the Gaza Strip faced criticism over the weekend by former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Ehud Olmert, the former Prime Minister who served time in prison, telling Channel 10 that the government has no organized plan for Gaza beyond military strikes, and he said would not accomplish anything. So everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I also believe that Israel needs to act much more forcefully when it comes to Gaza. I don't think that the former prime minister has that in mind, but how ironic that Ehud Olmert, who was, in fact, prime minister in 2008 during Operation Cast Lead, which he launched in Gaza, which did not take out Hamas, which did not accomplish all of its directives, which left Hamas armed and dangerous in Gaza. How ironic that he has chosen this opportunity to criticize the Prime Minister of Israel. I'm not saying the Prime Minister doesn't deserve some criticism. In 2012 and 2014, Israel went back into Gaza, and the situation remains as dangerous as ever, with Gaza and Hamas controlling the coastal strip there. But to come out and criticize the prime minister, to use this opportunity to criticize him, I don't think it should be coming from Ehud Olmert, who also did not handle the situation in Gaza as he should have, leaving Hamas in control. This is politics here. Politics is dirty. And here's just another example of that reported by our colleague, Gil Hoffman, in today's Jerusalem Post. Now, perhaps we could have started the show with this. I mean, this was the major news throughout the country this week. One of the major stories, at least. I have here in front of me the final text of the Jewish nation state law approved by the Knesset on July 19th. I actually wrote a piece about the Jewish state law for the Jewish News Syndicate, jns.org. So go to jns.org, check out my article. I'll call it Fair and Balanced because I included many opinions in the article, those who were very happy that the law was approved, those who thought it was a mistake. So there was a fair and balanced article about the law. But if you ask me now in my capacity, being on the microphone, talking about it on the show, on my show, I can definitely say that this was truly a historic law which was passed, which should have been passed 70 years ago, basically saying that Israel is the national home of the Jewish people. Yet you have so many who disagree with that and think that somehow by making that statement that this is somehow discriminatory. This is discrimination against our minority population. I understand 20% of our population are Arabs. I understand that there are loyal Druze who fight and sometimes die for the state of Israel and the land of Israel. But they shouldn't be offended by the fact that we're acknowledging it took 70 years to acknowledge that Israel and the name Israel can be used and can be described as the national home of the Jewish people. There's no reason for anyone to feel discriminated or be upset against this. Is this going to change anything on the ground for the Arabs or for the Druze? Or is this going to change their lives for the worse? Absolutely not. Just to get into some of the law, the text of the law, Israel is the land of Israel is the historical homeland of the Jewish people in which the state of Israel was established. It fulfills the natural, cultural, religious, and historical right to self-determination. The symbols of the state include the Magen David, the Star of David, on the Israeli flag. The seven-branch menorah is a symbol of the state. The Hatikva is our national anthem. And we're not going to get into everything here. You can read the text here, available in Times of Israel, available on the internet, talking about the state's language as being Hebrew. Arabic was never the official language of the state of Israel. Even so, the text of the law here says that Arabic has a special status in the state. Okay, the British deemed Arabic, English, and Hebrew as being the languages here, but it was never the official language in the state of Israel. People are getting that wrong. Okay? The clause does not harm the status given to the Arab language. It makes it crystal clear here in the text. So go through the whole thing. It's hard. We're not going to take the time to get through the whole text here, but check it out for yourself. Explain how you think this is discriminatory. Eugene Cantorovitch from the Kohelet Policy Center. I just watched an interview that he did on MSNBC. You can look at his latest op-ed in the Wall Street Journal explaining how this is such a parve text. This legislation, this law is so parve compared to some of the national laws passed by other countries throughout the Western world, throughout Europe and other places. And he even brings in the state of Hawaii, which blatantly favors born Hawaiians when it comes to land rights. And he brings that up, and he brings up I think it's Slovakia, and what their Israel doesn't have a constitution, by the way. That's why this was passed as a basic law, which is the highest level of law in Israel. How those countries, Slovakia, I believe it was, have a much more tightly worded national law, which could definitely be interpreted much more stringent, and I'm not going to say discriminatory, because I think every country is entitled to pass these types of bills when you have certain values and you have certain standards in your country, when this is the Jewish state of Israel. But again, the point is, this is so parve compared to other countries. But Israel, of course, being unfairly picked on and discriminated against. And I don't understand how this is like front page news. I mean, the situation in Gaza, and Israel, an Israeli soldier killed, and all this other stuff, that doesn't make front page news. But yet, when Israel passes this law, you hear about it on all of the mainstream media, accusing Israel of being a discriminatory apartheid nation, all this other nonsense. It's unbelievable how the standard is doubled. But go check out the text for yourselves of the law. Explain to me if you think, if you disagree with me and think this is discriminatory. I don't get it. I think this is truly historic. Again, as MK from the Likud party, Amir Ohana, told me this week, he said this law should have been passed in the first Knesset. It's a shame that it took the 20th Knesset after 70 years to pass these basic principles of Israel into law. So go check that out. And finally, last story for today, pride. Israeli pride as we begin our Monday here in Israel. The Israel Under-20 European basketball team wins the European Championship. Israel defeated Croatia 80-66 to take the European Basketball Championships for players under 20. This is the first time Israel has won the tournament. They finished second before. Congratulations. Israel has a bright future on the world stage when it comes to basketball. I love ending the show with something positive. So apparently, I guess just like the Eurovision, if you win the tournament, then you get to host the tournament. So apparently Israel is going to be hosting the European Under-20 Basketball Championship next year. We're looking forward to that very much. Great news to continue our week here in Israel. That's going to do it for today. For the 23rd of July, 2018, my name is Josh Hasten. This is Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Get in touch with me during the week. I'll give you the information one more time. Josh at thelandofisrael.com, on Facebook, Joshua Hasten, on Twitter, at Josh Hasten. Let me know what you think of the show. Love it, hate it. Give your opinions. Happy to read your emails on the air. Shout out again to all of the, first of all, to Benjamin Bresky, engineer extraordinaire, and all the other hosts here on the Land of Israel Network. Go check out their shows. There's so much amazing programming here on the network, bringing you information and the truth about Israel and Torah and some of the things you're just not getting anywhere else. So you gotta check out all the other shows here on the Land of Israel Network. Most importantly, between now and when we talk again, please God, next Monday, everybody out there, the wonderful world of ours, everybody be safe. Shalom, shalom from Jerusalem, Israel, Israel's eternal capital.
You're listening to the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com, broadcasting the truth and beauty